Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. It's Liam Hartree back with you today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. I'm really honored and excited to welcome to the show Mr. Iain Weaver, who is obviously really known, doesn't need any introduction from me, but I'm going to give an introduction anyway because this man's achievements in boxing absolutely stellar. So first of all, we've got 115 amateur fights, I believe. We've got a gold medal at the 2010 Commonwealth Boxing Championships in India. We've got a silver medal at the 2010 Amateur Boxing Championships in Moscow. We've got two ABA titles as well in 2007, 2008. Great Britain's gold medalist, three nations as well during the same years. Member of the Great Britain elite squad, trained
Yeah.
under Robert McCracken. I mean, wow, we've got some. Oh, and I also need to mention won the 2009 Amateur British Featherweight Boxing Association title as well. There's so many achievements here, Ian. I've got a list of them. I don't always have to do them. But for yourself, I made a list. Obviously, was a pro as well. So we're going to be chatting, as always, guys, not just about boxing, but we're also going to be touching on the mindset that it takes to reach such a high level in one of the toughest sports in the world. And we're going to be sharing some advice for young boxers and athletes starting out in the game as well. So, Ian, thank you, mate, for making the time for this today. And thank you for bearing with me because I was late as well. So, thank you very much, mate. It's great to have you here. It really is.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Thanks for having me.
No worries, no worries. I just wanted to read out a little list of those there. Hopefully, I haven't missed anything because you've achieved a lot in your life, and I think today we're going to talk about some of those that people know, but maybe we'll set the record straight about some other things that people don't know, and we'll
Yeah.
take it away from there. So, one of the things that I'm going to obviously go back in time first and talk about, and I'm going to start with a pretty big question because you've achieved so much in your career and you have a lot to look back on and be proud of. But out of some of the achievements that I listed out there, do you have certain favorite ones? Do you have certain ones that you're more proud of than any others when you look back and reflect on your career now?
I think representing my country for the first time when I was 14, to get my first England vest, um, that was probably the one I can really remember because obviously towards the end of my career as an amateur, from 2008 to 2012, I was fighting for England weekly. Like I was traveling around the world, so I sort of become accustomed to fighting for England then. But as a 14-year-old getting my first England vest, that was probably like the highlight and um, the start of my boxing journey, really.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I mean, just to kick things off with a bang, because I love asking that question because when people have achieved so much, there's usually one or two that stand out above the rest. And it's
Yeah.
great to hear, what that was for you. Now, going back in time a little bit further, before that again, what age did you actually start boxing then in the very, very beginning?
I started in the gym when I was 5. My dad was a boxer. My granddad had his own boxing gym. So my dad used to train twice a week in a local gym, and he started taking me along when I was 5, and it started from there. I never looked back.
That is amazing. Absolutely. Yeah, in the blood as well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah, very, very cool. So when you started at that, such a young age as that, was it sort of love at first sight type of thing, like you enjoyed it, or did you have to sort of ease in over like a period of time or something like that?
I think that I didn't like it, to be honest. When I started at 5. I used to love going training. Um, it becomes sort of a habit, saying what I did twice a week, go to the gym with my dad. But when I started competing, where I'd done it so long and everyone thought I was going to do really well, I always thought there was a lot of pressure on winning. So I used to get really nervous. I didn't care about fighting. I would have got in and sparred or fought anyone. It didn't bother me. It was just winning and losing. Like I didn't take losing well. A lot of boxers say the same thing. But yeah, losing was I just put a lot of pressure on myself not to lose. So it was I used to get very nervous from a young kid until I got to about 17, 18. And then I still got nervous, but I just controlled it a lot better as I got older.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the pressure and everything, it is a big thing. I'd like to go a bit deeper into that if that's okay, mate. Just
Yeah.
for people who are well, basically starting out, or they're in the amateur ranks or whatever.
Yeah.
They're going through the same process. They're learning how to manage it. Can you share with us a little bit more about how you stopped that bothering you so much, and how you, like you say, when you got to 17, 18, it was less of a problem, even though you still felt
Um,
it.
well, I think from like where I boxed from such a young age, I was always tipped to do quite. I was always quite good from a youngster. Um, well, in the gyms, I was quite good. When I boxed, I did all right. But I thought as I got older, someone said to me once, "You're going to be nervous whether you get in there or you don't get in there. So get in there. You're going to be nervous. You may as well get in there and give it your all." And ever since then, I thought, you know what, I'm going to get in there. It's not like I'm not going to fight. I'm always going to get in the ring and fight. So I was going to get in there, give it my best shot. And as I started getting to like 17, 18, I started to believe in myself a little bit more, and believe that I could beat pretty much anyone if I boxed to my ability and turned up on the day. So I just got started getting in there and believing in myself really, and yeah, I just kept winning, which was good.
Absolutely, yeah, kept winning a lot, and you will talk about some of those as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, in terms of competing and sparring and everything like this, I was looking back through the amateur records. But what age did you actually start sparring or doing any of the contact stuff? We ought to cover that quickly as well.
Well, from like a young age, I was in the gym that I was on in. They would have me sparring from like the age of 7, 8, 9. It wasn't hard. I was sparring like there was some pros in there. They would just mess around and let me hit them. But yeah, I've been sparring from a young age. Like my dad, sparring my dad from 9 or 10. So I started off. It's quite it's a bit of a brutal, not a brutal upbringing, but with my dad was hard on me growing up, right in the boxing world. So in training, he was quite strict on me, quite hard on me. No facial expressions. Don't want to hear you moaning. I don't want to hear you whinging and moaning. When you're in the gym, you're in the gym, and what I say goes. So I just did whatever I was told to do from a young age, and yeah, it seemed some people say it's a little bit brutal, and I think if I had a son and he was into boxing, I'd be exactly the same because it's a tough sport. So it's definitely not a it's not a place for to get off lightly. So you need to be training hard, and you need to train hard, but also have a strong mentality and strong mindset.
Yeah, I hear what you mean. I mean, yeah, on the one hand, it is tough, and I've seen it myself with the tough mindset. But at the same time, it's sort of protective, isn't it? Because if you take it lightly, or you don't, you slack off on something, or you're not concentrating or whatever, obviously, it doesn't end well. So,
Yeah,
I get what you mean with that, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, but it reminds me hearing that story because obviously there's a lot of guys like obviously Floyd Mayweather and his dad and his uncle and obviously
yeah,
Roy Jones and it sort of reminds me of some of those classic boxing stories with their
yeah.
fighters. Um, okay, so moving on that a little bit now with this. Regardless of it being in your bloodline, when I talk to boxers, when I talk to any athletes, really, there's always that transition of getting into it more and sort of enjoying it or whatever, and then realizing how far they can go, if you get what I mean. So going from, okay, I'm just doing a bit of this sort of for my dad to like, actually, I can take this a long way. What was
Yeah.
that process like for you where you realized how far you could go?
It's funny because it like if you look at my old school reports and everything, I'd always say in school, I don't need schooling. I'm going to be a world champion. So from a young age, I was always saying I'm going to be a world champion. Even at times I didn't like, my dad didn't have to drag me to the gym, but sometimes I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to train. You know, it was hard work, but I believe I used to box from a youngster because I was quite good at it naturally. I was just quite lucky. Um, so from the age of like 11, 12, I won my first, I think it was the novices in the first year I started boxing. And then I got to the schoolboy finals, got a call up for England. I went on a training camp at Crystal Palace when I was 14. And it's from there really because you started knocking around with, the older lot and they're all training for like major competitions, going to the Olympics. I think it was 2004 I won my first national title and started boxing for England. So it's like the Sydney Olympics when Audley Harrison won the gold medal. So once I've seen the watch them Olympics, it sort of gave me a little bit of a kick up the arse and a bit of a buzz to want to go on and achieve that. Because it was never about the Olympics when I first started boxing. Like, it was always about being a world champion. And then when I seen the Olympics and watched the opening ceremonies, that sort of gave me the buzz to really start training properly and trying to achieve the Olympic dream.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And again, I'm just going to highlight that 'cause it's an important one for people starting out as well. I mean, watching the success, even when you're not training, watching videos and watching, things like watching the Olympics back or watching top tournaments back, you can be feeding your mind even when you're not physically training. And you said there about the older lads as well, and that's a good one because the success rubs off on you, doesn't it,
Yeah,
really? You see in there.
100%.
Yeah, you got to surround yourself with good people, which brings me to another thing actually, is obviously we were talking just now about sort of, 8, 9, 10, that sort of age. But if we go forward a little bit further into obviously a lot of this happening in your teenage years,
Yeah,
even with that Olympic dream and even with your dad and stuff, obviously there's still distractions that come up when you're a teenager with girls and drinking and all this stuff that sort of
yeah.
open up to people. How did you stop that from distracting you and taking you off track during that timeline?
Well, like I said, my dad was strict on me, so me going out was I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to go out and hang about on street corners and go out of the night time. There were certain people I was allowed to go and hang around with. Um, they were same sort of background as me. So my dad wouldn't put up with it. He was strict because he knew what the world was like out there. So he didn't want me out there causing mayhem and up to no good and just knocking around with the wrong people. So it was never a problem like with the drinking and out because I never did it. I wasn't allowed to. So I'm quite thankful really because I think my upbringing was good. It's turned me into the man I am. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I was going to ask you that next, actually, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense with that, yeah, because I mean, you see a lot of people throwing away their talent now
Yeah,
for things, basically for short term, isn't it? I mean, they're
yeah,
doing it's only going to last like a couple of years or a few years or whatever. Whereas
yeah,
obviously, if they put that away, you can achieve some big things for many years, and
yeah.
is long term versus short term. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So obviously, in terms of as you were progressing through the ranks and things like that as well, when it comes to traveling the world, which is something you did a lot, what was the first one where you were competing abroad, and what was that like for you as a youngster and everything?
I think the first time I went boxed abroad, it was was it France? I think it might have been France. I went over to France with the England team. I think it was 16. I went to France. Yeah, it was because I was out there for my 16th birthday. Um, yeah, it was just a new experience. It was good. Um, Obviously, you were the other lads that are fighting for England. It was a buzz. It's just a great experience, and you only realise how good of an experience is now looking back at it. At the time you're making weight, you're training 2 or 3 times a day. So obviously, like looking back at it now, like the countries I've been to, like someone to say, I'd like to go to this country or fancy, it, and I thought I've been there. Like there's not many countries that I haven't been to. Obviously at the time I can weight in boxing, but I've definitely been to a few countries, and it was a great experience looking back at it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, funny enough, that's something that I do have as a question for you because, again, feeding back into people who are starting out and people who are just getting going, and like the amateurs who are just getting going with their careers. You've been
Yeah.
to places. So, what do you regard as like the most special places you've been that you would never have been if it wasn't for being a boxer, if that makes sense?
Well, I've been to India 3 times. I've been to Moscow, Russia, but I've been to Mauritius on a warm weather training camp with GB. I boxed out in America was out in America for a month, traveling around America and training and competing. So the India's definitely the one that I think it wouldn't be a place I'd choose to go. But a lot of people, I speak to a lot of people, and they say some people love it, some people hate it. It wouldn't be a place I'd want to go for a holiday. But I can say I've been there and done it and got the T-shirt.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously, boxing takes people places that are not like on the tourist trail, if you like. I mean, they're not your run of the mill location. So I think that's cool, and it's still inspiring for people starting out as well. So
Yeah,
obviously, as we move through some of your achievements, we'll come now in a minute to like the Commonwealth Games and all of this side of things. But before we do, people always want to know about toughest fights, but I just want to give that a context for a minute because obviously, a toughest fight is not always like, as you know, who hits the hardest or whatever. I mean, a lot of times I bring this up and it's like somebody had something in their life going on outside the ring and they
yeah,
have to focus through that, or it comes in a different way. So just to
yeah.
give that the context. But what was that for you? Like the toughest challenges you faced out of many, I'm sure.
Um, I think this when some I get asked this question all the time about what's your hardest fight, and being on the squad and fighting around the world, it's quite hard to pick one because when you're fighting these other lads from different countries, the Russians, the Bulgarians, they're rough, tough men. Um, so they're all hard in different ways. But I'd say my hardest one probably would be Danny Phillips would have been my toughest one, and it's sort of a changing point for me in the boxing world. It's 2007, junior ABA final. Um, I was struggling at the time. I was struggling with weight a little bit. I was sort of caught in between two weights. I was a little bit big for 54 and too small for 57. But it wasn't because I was too big for 54. It's because I was just being lazy. I was walking around like 55 kilos. Um, and my dad said to me, listen, you get to 54 kilos, don't go 57. Danny Phillips in your weight. You won't beat him. He's a good kid at the time. He was winning everything. I think he won like a couple of schoolboys, a couple of junior ABAs. He was the world bronze medalist. He was the one that was tipped to go on to do big things for England. He was bigger than me. He was strong. Um, and funny enough, like when I first boxed for England when I was 14, he was on the squad, but he was at a bigger weight. And I can remember watching him thinking, he's good. No way would I want to fight him one day. And then that happened to be that this year, if I'd gone in at 57, I'd have fought Danny. Funny enough, I spoke to Stuart Gill at the time, my coach, and he said the same thing. Listen, 57 is a tough weight. You're a bit small. To me, being a stubborn, thinking I was a little man that I was, thought, you know what, I'm going to go at 57. I want to go test myself against Danny Phillips, and we'll see. We'll see. So I went at 57, and I was weighing in like 55 and a half, small. And we had a fight. It's probably one of my best fights. I was only speaking about it last night with my whole coach Stuart Gill. I went to the local gym last night, had a chat, and trained some of the local lads. And there's the photos on the wall from that fight. So I won the fight 9-8, but it's a little bit of a turning point because then I really thought I can go on and do things now. Like I'm 17, I've just beat one of the best prospects in the country. Won my first like major national title, and got selected for England. So yeah, that Danny Phillips fight was a tough one mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, mate, for picking one because yeah, I mean, I was very mindful of like obviously there's so many. I mean, obviously you
Yeah,
making a career out of tough fights, but it's good to narrow down a special one like that. Now, another thing here is obviously when you're saying there about competing for England and being, in the spotlight from a young age and being recognised from a young age, and obviously that grew over time from like the boxing community to I'm sure it was wider, but how did you handle being like a known person basically at such a young age? Because it's something that people struggle to handle even when they're older and like the
yeah.
spotlight's on them. And how did you deal with that like as a teenager and everything?
Well, I think from the age of 17, I got on the GB squad, and I was away in Sheffield from Monday to Thursday, and then I'd come back. Where we live, I live like pretty much in the middle of nowhere. My dad's got a piece of land. It's out the way. I'm not near anything. So, I used to go to Sheffield, do my training. It was strict up there 3 times a day. You knew where you was all the time. Like in the 7 o'clock weigh in, 7:30, track, in the gym at 10:30, and again at 3:00. So I was always training. So it didn't really bother me or get to me, or I didn't have a chance to think about it really, because I was just constantly training like a professional. And being part of the GB team, that's what it did for me. From 17 to 22, I was just constantly either abroad fighting, on training camps, or in Sheffield.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the tunnel vision sort of concept. I mean, like a lot of other things being blanked out, which I mean, it's good. You
Yeah.
don't be distracted, but it makes sense. So, obviously, some of your key achievements. I mean, it would be great to talk about so many fights, and it'd be great to talk about everything. But I think we'd be here till sort of next week or something like that. So, narrowing it down a little bit. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, India 2010 Commonwealth Boxing Championships, New Delhi, and I know we're moving forward a little bit in time, but I read somewhere that your dad said that winning that was like winning the lottery or something. I
Yeah.
think that's what he said, like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
So, in your own words, that achievement after all the years of sacrifice, dedication, everything like that, I mean, that was a really, do you regard that now as sort of a pinnacle for you, especially because of the guy you beat as well and his status, you know?
Yeah, well, as an 18-year-old, I went to India for the Commonwealth Youth Games. So that was a great achievement for me. So I thought just the experience. It was like the first real it was like they're like a mini Olympic Games, aren't they? In a village, um, you weigh in. It was brilliant, the youth games. And I said to my dad, like, I want to do the senior ones. I need to get to the senior ones because I had such a good time in the youths. But I won gold out there. I beat the Indian world champion in the youth ones, and that was a great experience. But yeah, going to the Commonwealth in 2010 as a senior, um, yeah, it was great. To me, I was just all taking it at the time. It was just another tournament, another medal, something that I had to do to achieve my dream of getting to the Olympics. So at the time, it was just another tournament. But looking back on it, yeah, it's a great achievement. Um, but at the time, it's just, yeah, I've been to another tournament, been to another country, and had another 4 fights that I've won.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I have to ask is, and with my interviews, I always dwell on the positives. I don't dwell on the negatives, although we'll talk about a few lows as well as highs, but I always like to try and frame things. What I'm getting at, when you look back on this stuff now,
Yeah,
at the time you were like fully focused, you were locked in and everything. Do you think that you could have stopped to sort of look around a bit more and take it in? I mean, obviously not too much because you don't want to be distracted from the fight, but it sounds almost like, I don't know how to put it, but almost like, you like you said earlier, you realize how special it is now looking
yeah,
back on it more than you did at the
at
time.
the time. Yeah. Well, I think where it was, where we was always like training, it was I do that tournament, and then they'd say to me, "You're back in Sheffield next week. The next tournament's here. You're fighting there." So I never had time to really reflect on anything because I always had the next goal in mind, and the main goal was obviously getting to the 2012 Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's just something that fascinates me because people see the tournaments and everything, but they don't always see what's going on in your head.
Yeah,
And also, as well as that, I try and show fighters as people when I do my interviews as well, not just as
yeah,
fighters. That makes sense
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's experiences you're having. But yeah, I mean, obviously, coming to the Olympics itself, I mean, I know we're moving forward in time here, and
yeah,
you not having a chance to qualify and then going pro instead.
yeah.
How do you deal with something like that being dashed basically when you've been working towards it for such a long time and you have to go a different route instead of that way, if you get what I mean, you know?
Yeah. To be honest, that to this day is still I'm still bitter about the Olympics. If I'm honest, out of all of it, that one did hurt. If I'm honest, because I dedicated 5 years to being on the squad constantly, Sheffield Monday to Thursday. At the time, because in 2012 they changed the weights for the men because they introduced women into the boxing into the Olympics. So my weight at 57, where I was number one and winning most of my fights, um, they changed it to 56. So where I was making 57 from 2007 to 2010 for 3.5 years, for me to get down to 56, it just killed me. I've done it for one tournament and it's just too much. So I moved to 60 in 2011. And I went to 4 tournaments at 60 and won 4 medals. But, at the time, they seemed to think I was a little bit too small to go to the Olympic qualifiers at 60. I thought different, if I'm honest. Like the last tournament I went to, I beat the world bronze medalist, the Russian youth Olympic medalist, the youth world silver medalist, and then I beat Joe Cordina. And then I lost in the final to a Bulgarian in Bulgaria, 1918. So listen, I thought I'd been fine to go to the qualifiers at 60 kilograms, but they sat me down in the meeting and they said, we'd like you to stay on for 2016, go to the next Commonwealth. But, I just said I'm not happy to stay another 4 or 5 years for maybe the same thing could happen again. But yeah, it's still a bit like, it's still quite a bit of pill, to be honest. I really thought I deserved the opportunity to go to them qualifiers. But I truly do believe now that everything happens for a reason. So whatever reason that was, it was. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's something that I had in mind bringing that up, but it's bound to be, a bit of pill to swallow, and it's bound to
Yeah.
not be nice to think back to it. And unfortunately, I've met so many guys in boxing with the same, similar experience. There's quite a few people who've, been working towards that with the Olympics and not got there and everything, and it is pretty gutting. But
Yeah.
obviously, then you made the decision for going pro and everything. And obviously, this is a little bit different because there's the business side of boxing as well as box. I'm not saying that. I mean, there always is, even with the amateurs, there's always business, there's always politics and everything like that. But can you talk to us first of all about a little bit about like how you adapted to being pro, because there are similarities, but there are big differences as well with the pro game to the amateur game.
Well, I thought I'd always be a better pro than I was amateur because I had that style. My fights, I always got better as the fight went on, so I knew over the longer distance it would be better for me. But again, once I left the squad, I went to sign with Eddie Matchroom, had a great contract. But then I failed my brain scan for the British Boxing Board, so I couldn't get my British license. So that was another. In 2012 was just a year of blows for me in the boxing world. Yeah, I didn't get my British license. Messed me up as a pro, to be honest, because then I had to sort of go on the road boxing abroad in the away corner. Obviously, in the UK, I was well known. I had a good reputation. I could have gone into most promoters' offices and got a good deal. But when I was going to America, it was different. That I was an unknown English kid trying to get a promotional deal. So it became difficult. So yeah, that was a difficult time. So my pro career wasn't as good as it should have been. I was pro for from 2000 and the end of 2012 to 2019. I only managed to get in 13 fights, so it wasn't fantastic. But I did it. I tried it. We did all we could do, but it's just too difficult traveling abroad. And when you was fighting in America, they was flying you out on a Thursday, weighing in on a Friday, fighting on the Saturday. And anybody knows traveling to America, it's quite hard to do with the time difference.
So picking things up from there. So yeah, going to America and basically, not having the time to prepare, not having the
Yeah,
time to, do things the right way,
yeah,
what led to your sort of downfall really from the pro side
yeah,
of things. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And how do you look at that now? I mean, you said earlier, you tried it and or do you still have a bitterness about that as well?
No, I don't, because at the minute now, I just think everything happens for a reason. Through boxing, I met my other half. I've got my little girl now. Well, she's 6, so I've had her, but I would do it all over again, just for them 2 reasons alone. But in my pro career, I travelled a lot around America. I trained with some fantastic coaches. Jesse James Leher, Freddie Roach, George Diaz. I was in the Mayweather gym. So I've learned a lot I've got a lot of experience. So the actual boxing part of it didn't go great, but I believe now me being a coach, it's helped me massively. So yeah, I'm quite thankful for the way it went. Uh, things happen for a reason, and I truly believe I'm going to go on and use my experience and help others in the boxing.
Absolutely, I believe that as well, and we'll talk about that shortly as well. I'm going to go into your coaching and some of your advice for boxers and some of that shortly. Before we do, a couple of other things. You mentioned about like some of the guys you trained with and sparred with and all this type of thing, and it would be good as well because that's something people don't see from the outside looking in. People who know you, they'll know, but not otherwise. Can you share with us some of the people you've sparred with, some of the people you've, it's probably quite a long list, this, but maybe a few highlights, like you said about Freddie Roach there and some of
Yeah,
or trained with him, people like that.
yeah. I've sparred the likes of George Linares. That was Rendell Monroe. I went to America. I've done lots of rounds with Sergio Olympic, who was the IBF lightweight world champion. Richard Comey, former world champion. Obviously on the squad, I was sparring Josh Taylor, Luke Campbell, Joe Cordina. A lot of the people that's gone on to win world titles from the squad. I think 2012 squad was fantastic. A fantastic squad that went on and done good things in the pros. A photo come up on my Facebook the other day from, I think it was 2011 when I was in Mauritius, of a photo of me, Callum Smith, Anthony Joshua, Joe Taylor, Joe Cordina, and Josh Taylor. Them four lads went on to win world titles, all of them. So yeah, it's a fantastic. I've had a fantastic career. I've mixed it with some great people. Even the likes of training with Rob McCracken, fantastic coach, Richie Woodall, and some of the other GB coaches. It's been good. I went to Texas and done the training camp with Jesse James Layer, where I think I learnt a hell of a lot. The Mayweather gym, I was sparring in the Mayweather gym. Done pad with Roger Mayweather. I've done, I think, 3 months in LA on my own in the Wild Card gym. So, I've had a lot of experience. Although I've only had 13 pro fights, like my experiences as traveling around the pro gyms and training with trainers, I've definitely got a bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, mate. I know that certain things didn't go to plan, but when you look at it like that, I mean, the experiences you've had, it's more than people get in a lifetime. A lot of people.
100%.
This is
Yeah.
the thing, somebody, working in an office or something like that. I mean, no disrespect to that. I mean, it's fine if that's what you want to do, but they're not going to
Yeah.
have these types of things of meeting the best people and going to these countries. And,
Yeah.
you're blessed in that way.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even though I do feel your pain with some of the other things, there's definitely the blessings. So, it's good. It's very, very good to touch on those. Now, obviously, coming into the coaching side of things, first of all, a lot of people watching this will probably know about this, but just for anybody who doesn't know about what you're doing now, can you just tell us a little bit about how that's going with the coaching side of things? And obviously, I know a bit about it, but not everyone's going to be in it.
Yeah. The coaching's going well. After my last fight in Texas as a pro, I got elbowed. I was fighting for an American title in Texas, and I got an elbow, and I got 13 stitches. And after that, I come back and I had my little girl. I think she was 18 months old at the time. Watching her look at me, with my eye busted, completely closed. I thought this boxing game's not really for me anymore. So I knocked it on the head. Completely had nothing to do with it. I didn't watch it. My dad had an amateur boxing gym. My mum was a judge. Um, and I wanted nothing to do with it. My dad said to me a few times, "Get your coaching license, come help me with the boys." I said, "Dad, I don't want anything to do with boxing. It's been nothing but a letdown for the last." God, at the time I was a little bit miserable with it. And then one of my mates said to me one day, "Do you want to come round this weekend and watch Joe Joyce fight Daniel Dubois?" And I thought, I know Joe Joyce from the amateurs. I've been on a few camps with him. I said, "Yeah, of course I'll come round, have a look." And I like having a little bit of a bet. So I looked at the betting and I seen like Joe Joyce was a massive price to win. I don't know what it was, like 4-1, 7-2. So you know what? I can't see him getting beat to Daniel Dubois. I know I haven't been in the boxing for the last couple of years, but for me, Joe Joyce beats him. So I had a little bit of a bet, went round there, watched it, won a few quid, and I got a little bit of the buzz back. And I carried on watching, like most Saturdays, watching the boxing. And then I spoke to my old pro coach, Al Smith, and I said, Al, I think I might want to help train boxers. And he said, more than welcome to come down here and see what you think. So I went down there, done a couple of sessions, and got the buzz back, fell in love with it again. Got my pro license. I was helping a couple of pros out down there. And now I've got my own pros. I've got a young lad called Lloyd Farrington, who's a 3-0 middleweight. Just started training in the last couple of weeks. I've got a couple of amateur kids that I've got that fight out of Golden Ring, my old boxing gym. And obviously I train Archie Sharp, and I help out training Casey Kadimi. So, things are good. I'm a young coach. I'm only 34. So I've got years to build a good stable. But at the minute, things are going really well. Archie's doing great. He's highly ranked, and I think he can have a big year. So it's going good. I've got Richard Sawyer that we both train. Obviously Archie and Casey, so we both work together as a team. And it's a great little team.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're doing some amazing things, and that's why I said, most people will know, but for anybody who is wondering, what you're doing now and sort of where you've gone as well, it fills them in. Now, we'll talk about your future plans. We'll talk about your advice for the youngsters. But so far as a coach, just very quickly, what is your proudest moment as a coach? So far, your favorite aspect of it? Maybe it's not one moment. I don't know, but some of the things, some of your highlights as a coach so far, basically.
I've done a couple of corners with a couple of lads. I was helping Dennis McCann, done a couple of hand up to the corners. Obviously, I wasn't the main coach, but I've just helped out. But I like as a coach knowing that you're achieving something. So when a boxer comes to you and says, "I really think I'm improving," like you're helping me out. So at the minute I've trained Archie for his last couple of fights, me and Rich. So at the minute they're not massive accomplishments. I haven't done a great deal as a pro at the moment, as a pro coach, but I'm hoping within the next couple of years, I will be having a great stable and winning some titles.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you will, mate. I'm sure you will because you've got so much knowledge to pass on to these people, and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing that because you've got the knowledge of the things that they should do, the things they shouldn't do. Obviously, a lot of life lessons that come out of boxing as well. I mean, this is a big thing. It's not just about boxing, is it? I mean, it's often these things come out into life, which leads me obviously to talking about that as a topic. For people who are listening to this who are boxers starting out and getting going, particularly amateurs and things, can you share with us? And I know this is quite a big topic, but if we narrow it down to sort of a handful of things, tips that you give that they should do, and maybe a couple of things they should avoid as well, that would be great to get that message out there a little bit.
I think first of all is finding a good coach that you can trust. Go to a local boxing gym that's got most boxing gyms locally. They've got some good blokes there because they're all there at the goodness of their heart. They don't get paid to do it, so they're all really good blokes. You normally get a lot of good women and men in the boxing world this day and age. So go to your local boxing gym, enjoy it, and I think that's the main thing is to enjoy it, because when it starts getting serious and you do start competing and doing really well, it gets a little bit stressful when it becomes, instead of more of like a hobby and something you enjoy, it becomes more of a job. So I would say enjoy it, listening to your coach, and just stay off the streets. Get down to the local boxing gym 2 or 3 times a week. Stay out of trouble. Boxing is great for discipline, even if you don't want to compete. If you just want to stay fit, it's a great sport. So I think just get down to your local boxing gym, and even the white collar gyms. I don't agree with some of the white collars, because sometimes it can be dangerous and you get a lot of mismatches. But even if you just want to go down there and train, it's just a good all round fitness, mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, it's something that I think is actually really powerful about boxing is
Yeah,
like not just competing now, but like just for example, you've got like a young kid who comes in the gym and he's really shy, for example, he won't talk to anybody and he won't come up with his shell. And then, after a few weeks or I don't know, a couple of months or whatever it is, he sort of got that confidence, not just in the gym, but in life. Or,
yeah,
like obviously people's mental health. What I'm getting at is it's not just competing. There's so many like intangible
yeah,
benefits to getting involved in
definitely.
the gym, the
Yeah,
community aspect. So,
yeah.
you know,
It's great for confidence boxing, Uh, for someone that's not used to it, for someone to walk in the gym full of boxers and to train, it's a big thing for someone to do. So for your confidence, it does amazing things for your confidence. Obviously, your mental health and physical. It's a win-win either way.
absolutely, yeah. This is the thing, and like I was saying, the community as well. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the big thing is you got like good sort of tight knit if it's the right gym, tight knit community. So yeah, I'd say to everybody to get
yeah,
down there. And like what you were saying with your dad, I agree with your kids being put into boxing or into like
yeah,
martial arts or whatever, whether they take it further or not, because it does give
yeah,
you discipline and respect and
yeah. So
um,
my little girl, she's only 6, but I've got her in. Oh, not me, my other half. She got her in dancing every weekend. She's in a performing arts school, so she's there all day on the Saturday. You know, she's at after school clubs. She does so many things. I think it's good to get him into something to keep him occupied, keep him off the streets. I know she's only 6, but I'd like to give her the sort of upbringing that I had. I was always around my dad, going to work, earning a few quid, or in the boxing gyms. I was off the streets. I wasn't allowed to do all that, and it's dangerous out there at the minute. Um, the world's a crazy place at the moment. So if you can get into a boxing gym, or any martial arts, or whatever it is, whether you're female or male, dancing, if you can keep off the streets and do something, keep your mind occupied, I think it's a good thing this day and age.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is the thing on the streets now. It can cost you years and years of your life, and or even cost you your life. I mean, it's one of those things where it's a crazy world out there now, and yeah, keeping kids away from that. I mean, I do a lot of interviews with guys who have been to prison or they have been on drugs or whatever, and then they've turned it around. And when you hear that, when you hear those stories. It's crazy. So, yeah. Last couple of things, then, mate. I think you can still hear me, okay, can't you?
Yeah,
Still got me, yeah, yeah. Last
yeah,
couple of things. I have to ask, not to get into anyone's personal life or anything, but if your daughter did want to try a bit of boxing herself, because there's more and more women and girls doing it
yeah.
now, what would you say about that? Would you be okay with it, or?
Well, we've had it recently because where we live, I've got a boxing gym literally on my land, so I train people here. And she's always said she comes in the gym with me now and again. Uh, I've trained her a little bit. She's a southpaw. She's quite good actually. She's got brilliant feet. And my dad always says, let her do it. But I don't want to, because I don't really want that relationship with her that would have to have with her if she was a boxer. Um, It'd be different. I know my other half always says, "Oh, what about if you had a boy?" It'd be different, and it would, because I'd always think about if I had a little boy who would box, so I'd have that relationship with him. But it's a hard relationship, You've got to be hard on him. You can't be soft. My dad was hard on me, and I appreciate the way he was with me, because it turned me into the boxer I was. I don't want that relationship with my little girl. But if she wanted to do it, I'll train her and she could do it. But I would prefer she stuck to dancing.
Well, that's fair enough. I get what you mean. Both
Yeah,
sides of the coin there. Both sides of the
yeah.
coin.
It's not
Um,
an easy sport. It's hard. You're making weight. It's just it's a very hard sport, and it's not always, you don't always get out what you've put in. You know, I'd say I was lucky. I trained hard, but there's not many people that go say they can win a national senior ABAs or junior ABAs. It's quite hard, and I think if she did start boxing, she'd always have like a lot to. Not saying I was the best thing since sliced bread, but she would have a lot to live up to. While your dad persists that, so it'd be quite hard, I think.
Yeah, that is another thing. Well, actually, that's a very good point, actually, because I have seen a lot of sons and son daughters. I won't mention any names here, but there's certain people, and living in the shadow of that.
Yeah,
I think it can damage their self esteem sometimes. To be
yeah, I
honest.
think it'd be hard.
Yeah, I think it can have that one more than anything else. I think. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it if you want to follow in their
Yeah, of
footsteps,
course.
but it can. Just bear in mind that it can sort of make people feel inadequate and all this sort of things.
Yeah, it's sort of always in competition. Oh, my dad won this, I would want to win that. So it's sort of always good. And listen, competition is good, but sometimes it can be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a balance. Yeah, it's not good or
Yeah,
bad. It's got two sides.
yeah,
Last couple of things, mate. Obviously, one of the other things I wanted to ask you, and this is a strange question, but I'll just get your thoughts on it anyway.
yeah,
What happened with the Olympics? I've heard that a lot of people say that, that they had their hopes dashed and all this type of thing, and I think they should be. I love the Olympics, by the way, so I'm not disrespecting anything to do with that. But when it comes to the people who don't make the cut sometimes and not always for the right reasons, it leaves them with lasting sort of damage, or it leaves them with a lasting sort of bad taste in their mouth and all this.
yeah,
I wonder if there's something that they could do on a political level to change that, because as weird as it sounds to some people, it's like people say when people come out of boxing, pro boxing, they should have like a pension fund or something. And obviously, I agree with that, although how to practically make it happen. I also think, and not enough people talk about this, that there should be the same type of thing with not so much a pension fund, but some sort of support. Actually, like if someone didn't make the cut for the Olympics, and then they had, I'm not sure if they need some type of counselling, or they had somebody else who
yeah.
understood the situation. What do you think of putting an idea like that in place or
I
something?
think sometimes with the Olympic, obviously, like with me, it wasn't down to me why I didn't go to the qualifiers. Like if I'd have been given the opportunity to go to the qualifying competition and I didn't qualify, then I think that would be a lot more easier than on me going. I had my chance, I had my opportunity, and I wasn't good enough, or I just didn't perform that day. So I think it'd be a bit easier. But listen, to making the Olympic team obviously it's incredibly hard. There's not many people that get to get on the squad. I think that obviously there's one weight, there's 10 weights, so there's 10 people to go to the Olympics in the males. Um, it's quite a hard one because normally when you don't make the Olympics, if you're good enough to be on the team and go to like the international tournaments, you're normally always going to get looked after in the pro ranks. So they've always got that to a lot of them just turn over. But I can see a lot of them. Some of them stay quite late on the Olympic team. Like like Tom Stalker, he stayed on the squad for years. Fraser Clark, he got on the GB squad with me on the same trials in 2008. So he was on there for like nearly 12, 13 years. So I don't know about if there's something they could do for people that it mentally affects when they leave. I think it'd be quite a difficult one to do, but it's worth looking into.
Yeah, it's a strange idea I had, mate, just because, obviously the pension fund thing is talked about quite extensively, but something
Yeah,
like, what you said there about the brain scan, for example, right?
yeah,
Lots of guys struggle with that. I mean, even where I'm from in Wales, there's a number of guys who've got like Robbie Regan, you've got Barry Jones and people like that. Some of them,
yeah,
they won world titles, but they still failed brain scans and their careers were cut. So
yeah,
I think with the people like that, there should be some type of
yeah,
help, because it's obviously life throws curveballs at all of us, but I still think when someone's built it up to that level, like when people come out the army or something,
yeah.
you've lived in that regime for such a long time.
There's
It's,
definitely something there should be something where you can go and get help if you need it. Yeah, definitely.
yes, well, that's what I'm getting
Yeah,
at.
yeah,
Like you say, not so much if I mean if you made it to the Olympics, or you made it some even to a pro title and you didn't win it. I mean that's, yes, it's tough, but it's sort of what you've worked for and what you've signed up for. But
yeah,
like some of these situations where something else has come into the
yeah.
situation. I think there should be something. But anyway, maybe if we put that out there, maybe someone will pick up on it, and
Yeah.
And the last thing, really, obviously, you're coaching and you're looking to grow your coaching. So, if people listening to this want to reach out to you, and there's some talented youngsters out there who want to give it a go with you, what do they do? Should they contact you on like the social media, or reach out to you in that way to see if
Yeah,
have a
they
try?
can contact me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to growing my stable. And like someone said to me, you always wanted to be a world champion. That's sort of over now, but I can always train a world champion, and I believe I will do so. Um, and what a first fighter I've got really, and Archie Sharp, who's he's there at that level, and he's just waiting for the opportunity to fight for the world title. So it'd be fantastic if I can train a world champion, and I've got lots of years to do it as well. But I believe in the next year or two, I may be able to self-train one. Like I said last week, I was in the corner for a world title fight for Casey Kadimi. I don't train him personally. Richard Troy trained him, but I help out. We're all one team, so that was a great experience. He come up short, but we're a young team and we're getting more experience as we go.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think the future is very bright with you, mate. I really do, and I'm not just saying that. I really feel that because you have a lot of knowledge to pass on.
Yeah,
And like I've already said about life as well as boxing. So,
yeah,
when you got those champions in your stable and everything, we'll catch up and we'll do this again, and we'll tell
100%.
everyone how well that's going, and
Yeah,
tell them
definitely.
the story. But
Yeah, that'd
yeah,
be good.
for now, first of all, really grateful for your time, obviously, and as I sometimes say to people, I'm grateful for you being an open book as well, because obviously we've talked
Yeah,
about the highs, but we've talked about the lows as well, and
yeah.
it's not always easy. So,
No,
appreciate you sharing everything that you've shared, basically, mate. To be fair,
thanks for having me. I appreciate having me on.
it's a pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.